the teachings of a great saint whose picture is put up there. Today is a very auspicious day, and it happens to be the Holy Appearance Day, which in the general sense is the birthday of a great personality by the name Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, whose picture is garlanded out there at the back. For those who know, that's great. You can still take darshan. And those who don't can have a look at the back. So for the next 30 minutes, we'll be talking some crucial aspects from his life. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtham Sthapitam Yena bhu-tale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swah Padantikam Nama Om Vishnu-padaya krsna-presthaya bhutale srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswata Deva Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you so much, all of you, for coming in this evening. We are very grateful to have all of you at our center. Thank you. So it's a tradition to speak about the exalted life and some of the prominent teachings and precepts from the life of great saints in different traditions. So in our center, whenever we have the appearance day, which in the traditional sense is the birthday, or the disappearance day, which in the traditional sense is the day when they left this world, on these days we speak about these personalities and express our gratitude. So today being the appearance day, or the holy birthday of the personality at the back, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, we will very briefly speak some positive points from his life. First of all, let's contemplate and spend some time understanding the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Sri Krishna, the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, one of the wisdom texts of India, he promises in the Bhagavad Gita that whenever irreligion, whenever bad practices, malpractices rise in the name of religion, and whenever the true eternal principles fade away, when miscreants misuse actual spiritual principles and take advantage of it, that's the time he descends. God or Krishna manifests when irreligion decreases. Thank you, Prabhu. So similarly, one of the forms of the Supreme Lord, by the name Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, appeared about 500 years ago in India. And he came down to give the treasure of pure love. He said, the problem in this world is not the hunger of the stomach, but the hunger of the soul. We are all separated from God. And the time when we reunite in his loving service, in complete selfless aspect, that is when true happiness rises. He said the solution for all problems in this world is true love, or prema. And God himself, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, came to give that. He was present with many of his associates or entourage. And as time went by, he disappeared. His dear associates, called as the 6 GOSWAMIs of Vrindavan, they took on this missionary work, wrote so many books, taught by personal example, built temples, excavated holy auspicious pastime places, and kept this work on, helping people reach the goal of true God consciousness. With Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, after they disappeared, came the time of the famous trio. We had Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda Prabhu, and Srinivas Acharya. Once they disappeared, we had the great Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, great Baladev Vidyabhushan, who kept on working with this missionary spirit of spreading pure love in this world. But after they left, there was a very dark age in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, where the 4 principles of no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, and no illicit sexual relation. These 4 pillars of true spiritual practice were broken. And in fact, it was preached that true spiritual practice is breaking these 4 principles. So if you're eating meat, and if you're intoxicating, and if you're gambling, and if you're enjoying the pleasure of the body, then you're actually advancing on this spiritual front. You're becoming an enlightened person. And this is what people started believing in. They said, this is spirituality. Somebody else came and said, this is what I think is spirituality. The third person came in and said, this is what I think is spirituality. And the true principles got completely diluted with time, because everyone started coming and mixing their selfish agendas into the actual principle, and nobody realized what the actual principle was. And this led to many deviant sects. So many of them. One sect came up and said, whatever you may practice, this is religion. Somebody else said, you don't have to follow what's given in the scripture. Follow what your mind tells you. Your mind is your best teacher. And we all know how flickering the mind is. Sometimes it's described that the mind is like a monkey. Monkeys jump from one branch of the same tree to another branch of the same tree, and sometimes from one branch of one tree to another branch of another tree, and sometimes from this tree to that tree, and they're constantly jumping. They're constantly jumping. And what happens if you give a bit of alcohol to this monkey now? That monkey who's already jumping, you give it a little alcohol, and now what happens? Sorry? Now that monkey, it's like giving more energy and enthusiasm to that monkey. That's how the mind is. It's described, the mind is like a monkey. It's anyway jumping from one branch of thought to another branch of thought, and sometimes from one tree of thought to... There is none. There's one upstairs. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you. So in this way, the mind sometimes compared to a monkey, and it's constantly taking us different places. There are contradictory thoughts, and people say, I'm confused, I'm depressed, I'm lonely. And there were spiritual sects who said, you don't need any scripture, you don't need any teacher, just listen to this mind, and you will be happy. And the best thing was people started believing in this, and they thought this is spiritual principle, this is spiritual practice. Now, amidst all this darkness, who is going to be that sun who's going to rise from nowhere? Who's going to rise and say, wait a minute, the clouds of misconceptions are covering the sun of reality. There was a great personality by the name Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He appeared in Bengal, started writing books, started composing songs, started speaking in English for the first time. This was the British era in India. And he started speaking in English. And this went far and wide. He would explain how the true principles of religion, the true principles of spiritual practice were all getting diluted. And there's urgent need to refocus back to the original, to forget about all these adulterations, so to speak. But he was all by himself, with no help. He prayed to God. He prayed to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I need one ray of mercy. I don't need the whole sun. I just need one ray of mercy. He called it the ray of Vishnu. Huh? He said, I need one ray of Vishnu to help me. That's it. And I'll succeed. And on this day, in the year 1874, which is how many years ago? Mathematicians here. Okay. Anyway, I think I made a mistake by asking. Okay. All right. I accept whatever you say. So about close to 150 years ago, on this holy day, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that great saint, got a son. And he was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, whose birthday or appearance day we are celebrating today. And right from childhood, he started showing exceptional signs of empowerment. Like, for example, in the Vaishnava understanding, we know that when the sacred thread is wrapped around the neck, yeah, that's the sign of being a Brahmin, or somebody who is pure and spotless in character and very intelligent and bright. And when he appeared, the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck, as if to show, oh, he is the person who's going to be the future Brahmin. He is the person who's going to be the light, and he is the ray of Vishnu. Just to prove it further, when he was about 6 months old, the famous Rath Yatra procession of Jagannath, that was passing by the house of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the district magistrate, and he was also in control of the Jagannath temple. So the main procession, the cart festival of Jagannath, was proceeding opposite the house of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur came out to look at the Lord, take darshan. And he came out with his 6-month-old child. And this child was named Bimal Prasad, because Bimala means the goddess Yogamaya in Jagannath Puri. And Prasad means mercy. So in simple terms, Bimal Prasad meant he who's the mercy of the Lord. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur with this young Bimal Prasad came out. He said, let's go and see the Lord. Okay, let's go. He came out. And seeing this child, the cart stopped. That cart of Jagannath, which is so celebrated and so famous, and nothing can stop Jagannath. And if he wants to stop, nothing can pull him. There have been instances where the Lord, Jagannath, has decided, I'm not going to move. And they have called in elephants to pull and push the cart from either side. And the cart hasn't moved an inch. And on other times, they have kept elephants to stop the cart, and the cart still continues to move. So it all depends on the will of Jagannath. So seeing the young Bimal Prasad, Jagannath just stopped. And the cart just stopped. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, now is a good time. Let's go and see the Lord from close distance. And he took the child, climbed onto the cart, and kept at the lotus feet of the Lord. And this child, he went to embrace Jagannath. He said, my Lord, I'm so happy to be here. He went to embrace the Lord. And in reciprocation, Lord Jagannath dropped one of his sacred garlands onto the child, as a sign in front of everybody to show that he is the ray of Vishnu that I personally have sent down. And this child was exceptional. At the time when he was about 2 years old, his father Bhaktivinoda Thakur got a mango. Yeah, there's the fruit. And he got it to offer it to the Lord. But this child was so hungry, he said, I want to eat it. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, oh, wait a minute. This has to be first offered to the Lord as tradition, and then taken back as the mercy of the Lord. But this child said, I really want it. Then his father got little strong, and he said, you shouldn't take it. Oh child, don't you know? We shouldn't taste anything that's not first given to God. And the child at the age of 2 years old felt so embarrassed. He said, how is it possible that this is not offered to God, is not offered to Jagannath, this is not offered to Krishna, and I'm still desiring this? That 2-year-old child took an oath. He said, never again in this life am I ever going to touch mango. We also probably would make vows like that. And then the next day, we would have mango for breakfast. But he actually stuck to this all through his life. Even when he became a very exalted sannyasi, he was about 60 years old, his disciple got a mango. And he looked at it and he said, no, I am an offender. When I was 2 years old, I wanted to taste that mango which was not offered to the Lord. I am an offender, I am a sinner. So for me, the atonement is I cannot taste mango. In fact, he made a statement, the fact that I'm even seeing it is sinful. I shouldn't even see it. That's how strict he was. Just a wonderful, wonderful personality. This is when he was 2 years old. Then he grew up. At the age of 7, he mastered completely, or he had complete mastery over mathematics, astrology, astronomy. These are sciences which take about 25 years of study, and then you end up to a master's program. And he was 7 years old, and just complete mastery over these subjects, that the principal of the school came up to him and said, I want to give you a title, a knighthood. Just like they give knighthoods in UK. They say Sir or Lord, etc. So he gave him the title Saraswati, which in Sanskrit means the goddess of learning. Or you are actually the god of learning. You are learning personified. You're so knowledgeable. And he would know everything, so scholarly. At the age of 7, when he would go to school, he would sit and read the book Prarthana by Narottam Das Thakur, a great saint again. And he would read it, and the teacher is teaching something else. And they would say, Bimal Prasad, focus here. And he would say, okay. And they would punish. They would say, now I'm going to ask you a question. You're not attentive. Let me ask you a question. And he would stand up. And they would ask him a question. He would answer that question. And then he would say, probably now you're thinking this, and this, the probable question is this. And then he would answer the second question. And the teacher would say, oh, I think that's enough. And then he would sit down and he would ask the teacher, so can I continue reading my book? She would say, okay, go ahead. So he was multitasking, the term that people talk about these days. Oh, this guy is multitasking. He was multitasking in the 19th century, 200 years ago. Yeah. So that's when he was about 7 years old. When he was about 10 years old, it said he would proofread works in Sanskrit which even scholars couldn't understand. Now, these are things which are not fabricated, over-exaggerated stories. These are historical facts. And he would do this, and it was to be jaw-dropping, astonishing. At the age of 10, how could somebody do that? And he would give commentaries. He would explain verses. The sacred wisdom texts of India, he would read them, assimilate them, and even explain them, and even solve problems. Somebody would ask him a question and he would answer that. All of this at the age of 10. Then at the age of 16, this is very interesting, he started a meditation group called as the August Assembly. And one of the principles, of this assembly was that every member of this assembly should promise lifelong celibacy. And everybody just, they were 16-year-old, so you can imagine. They just entered this assembly and they pulled their hands up and they said, yes, we promise we're going to be celibate all through our life. And then 6 months later, 2 guys drop off, and then another 2 years later, another 4 guys leave. So much so that another 10 years down the line, everybody. Okay, let me put it like this. Except for, in this whole assembly, it was only Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura who remained celibate. I attempted to say this the other way, but then I thought that was a fix. So, so it was only Saraswati Thakura who could remain celibate to maintain a meditative practice. At the age of 26, it's described he wanted a spiritual teacher in his life. After being so scholarly, after having this great spiritual depth that he possessed, he found this great need to have a teacher, a formal training. So he asked his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, in my opinion, there is a teacher called as Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. You should go and talk to him, and you should ask him whether he can become your teacher. So the young Bhaktisiddhanta, who was about 26 years old, said, yes, let me go and ask him. He went to him, and who was this Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj? Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj was a renunciant who was not simply a renunciant. He was transcendentally eccentric. Some of them even termed him as a madman. He couldn't read and write. Sometimes he would wear clothes and sometimes he wouldn't. Sometimes he would eat and sometimes he wouldn't. He was just completely mad in love with God. He had nothing to do with things of this world. He was compassionate. He was humble. And in the external sense, he was not very literate and educated. And here was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, who was an erudite scholar. Why did his father tell him to go and take lessons from such a person? Because there's a very great reason to this. The reason is, we have to find a teacher who has depth in devotion. We don't have to find a teacher who's just very knowledgeable in the head, but has no love in the heart. But instead, it's better to learn from somebody the science of love, that person who's filled with love. What's the use of people who can speak for hours together on what love is without having even a drop of experience in their heart? But instead, it's better to go and learn from people who are facing that volcanic, oceanic eruption of pure love in their heart, even if they are not able to explain it. A genuine person. So he went to him and he said, can you become my teacher? I would really want to learn from you. And Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj said, look at this paradox. You are a scholar, and I am an illiterate person. I don't even know to read and write my own name. How can I teach you? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura in utter humility said, if all my learning, if all my scholarship is acting as a hindrance, an obstacle on the path of taking shelter and lessons from you, then all my scholarship is simply a failure. If my scholarship lets me reach you and learn from you, then that's a success. But if that's stopping me from getting close to you, then shame on me. I don't want to be so scholarly. In fact, I would prefer to be humble and take lessons from you. So he was really very dedicated. So his teacher, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj said, okay, let me think about it. Let me ask God. Let me ask Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and I'll keep you informed. I'll let you know. So then he said, when can I hear from you? You come after a week, I'll tell you. So he came back after a week, and he said, oh, teacher, will you accept me? What's the answer? What did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tell you? What did God tell you? He said, oh, oops, I just forgot to ask him altogether. Oh, can you come after one more week? I said, sure. Are you sure? After 1 week? Yes, after 1 week. So he went back. Then after 1 week, he came back. And Gaur Kishore Das Babaji said, oops, I forgot to ask him. Can you come back after another week? So now Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura understood that he's trying to trick him. So he said, please give me shelter. I want to learn from you. If you don't give me shelter, I'm jumping into the river and committing suicide. There's no point of my existence. I really want to learn from you. So he said, okay, I agree. And he accepted him, taught him lessons, and then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura understood that the essence of all spiritual principles is the loud chanting of God's names. There's no use of any other practice except the holy names of God in this age. Therefore we find whatever spiritual path we are in, whether people are following path A or path B or path C. If they are genuine paths, that will take them to the point of chanting the holy names of God. So he took a vow of chanting 1 billion names of God. How much? How many names were there? One name? 1 billion names of God. And that came close to 300,000 names a day for about 10 years. That's an intense practice. That's an intense practice. And after getting purified by the sound vibration of Krishna's holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, he started sharing this through different talks. He started his preaching mission. And in no time, he established about 64 temples in India. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, his father, had envisioned this project. But he was alone. He was weak. He needed help. And he said, I need one ray of Vishnu. And Krishna actually gave him that one ray of Vishnu in the form of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. This Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur established 64 temples, and they were all unique. He broke all spiritual, so-called conventional barriers. At that time, it was said, temples must be very small. They must be in a secluded place. But he broke that custom. He said, temples must be big. They must be opulent. Why? Because we, as small beings, live in wonderful big houses. So how should the house of God be? He who maintains all of us should live in a wonderful big place. If we are eating one apple, we should give him a basket. If we are eating one banana, we should give him a basket. We should always give him, in loving service, much more than what we use for ourselves. So he said temples shouldn't be small. And he broke all these barriers and came up with marble construction temples. Really big and fascinating. And people would enter the temple to see, what is this? This looks like a palace. We have never seen constructions like this. That was the first barrier. The second barrier, it was believed that those who are renunciants should not wear anything costly. No shoes, no motor vehicles, they shouldn't be dressed very nicely, etc. But he said, to spread the true message of love, to spread the true message of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, I have to deal with different people, different kinds of men. And to talk to them, he would do the way they do it. When in Rome, do the way the Romans do. Yes? So to speak to the British officers, he would dress himself in cap and tie and coat and suit and shoes and in motor cars. And I'm talking about in the 1920s. There are people now, even now, who don't have cars and vehicles like myself. I'm a poor person. But he, in the 1920s, he had a motor vehicle, a motor car, and there are pictures also of Saraswati Thakur. And he would go on that vehicle only to reach the destination faster so that he could speak about Lord Krsna. So he used everything for the purpose of preaching. He gave 3 fundamental principles. Principle 1, he said, never find faults in others. He said, before looking onto the faults of others, look within. What's the Bible equivalent of that?
Find the log that's embedded in your own eye before you see the splinter in your brother.
Look at that. So every path is giving the same essence, but it's given in different languages and in different style. So that was the first message. Never find faults in others. Look within and fix your own problems. Second, he said cooperate. It's better to be a speck of dust in the hands of your spiritual teacher than to be an independent angel. And third, he said all success will come in our life if we simply attentively chant the names of God. This is the essence. What's the equivalent to that in the Bible of chanting the names of God?
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name. See, this is the thing. Every practice, every proper authentic path speaks about the importance of chanting the holy name. So he again with a capital H, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, he emerged at that time when there was so much of, we could say it was a dark age for the true spiritual seeker. And amidst all this, he emerged like the sound of the conch shell, and he gave us the light of true spiritual practice. Let us bow down to him in gratitude. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura ki Jai. Hare Krishna.